Everything belonged to André Rieu. Castles suitable for kings and queens, venues sold out all around the world, and a fortune so vast it might compete with music legends. But there was a narrative that no one saw coming behind all the dazzling lights, sparkling costumes, and standing ovations. Even today's top pop singers have never amassed an empire worth $40 million on classical music alone, so why would this enormous riches one day be the reason his closest relatives started crying? André wasn't wealthy at first. He enjoyed music as a child growing up. His life was constantly surrounded by music because his father was the conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra. However, André was aware from the beginning that he didn't want to sit in a stuffy music hall in silence. He desired something far more thrilling, louder, and larger. He wanted everyone to leap up from their chairs, applaud, and sing. André created just that, bit by step. André took a big gamble in 1987 that would either turn him into a legend or permanently destroy him. He established the Johann Strauss Orchestra, a full-fledged spectacular entertainment force, rather than a little ensemble performing subtly for courteous applause. With just 12 musicians at first, the group swiftly grew to include over 60 artists from all around the world. André performed more than simply traditional waltzes. He performed everything from the Macarena to Strauss standards, and it was successful. Fans adored it. The tickets were quickly sold out. Before long, he was doing more than simply packing theaters. Around the world, he was filling stadiums and arenas. Money came in more quickly than everyone anticipated. By the early 2000s, André's success had expanded. He was outselling well-known performers like Coldplay, Bruce Springsteen, and AC/DC. His DVDs blew off the shelves in every nation, and his concerts brought in millions of dollars every night. Fans cheered as they were at rock concerts, paid exorbitant sums, and flew hundreds of miles. André became the wealthiest violinist alive as his enterprise flourished and his fortune skyrocketed. André, however, did not conceal his fortune in a bank vault. Rather, he spent a lot of money making even larger spectacles. He risked nearly all he possessed in 2008 when he designed an incredible $30 million staging for his performance at Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace. With its opulent decorations, gold and crystal, it resembled a fairy tale, exactly what admirers had hoped André Rieu would create. But he nearly lost everything because of that fantastic story. He almost lost decades' worth of profits overnight, due to the enormous expense which drove him to the brink of bankruptcy. Even though André had taken chances before, this one almost cost him his life. However, he declined. Gradually, André recovered, repaying his debts and making his performances even more successful. He recovered stronger and wiser in a matter of years, and he was wealthier than before. He made millions more by extending his concerts into international film events and broadcasting performances in cinemas throughout the globe. In order to experience the thrill on a large screen, fans who were unable to travel to see him live raced to movie theaters and paid top dollar. In addition to recovering, André's fortune quadrupled and then tripled, reaching an astounding $40 million by 2023. But André wasn't the only one who made his riches. His family, particularly his wife Marjorie, who was much more than simply his partner, was there from the beginning. Marjorie developed the stunning stage designs that became well known all around the world, created the costumes, and assisted in selecting the locations. They built an entertainment empire that became a real family business by working together to make every concert special. The entire business was transformed into a musical dynasty when their son Pierre even assumed a significant position as vice president of André Rieu Productions. André never lost sight of his origins, even when his performances became famous. He resided in a 1452 castle in Maastricht. A real castle, really. This mansion was not your typical one. It was the fabled location of D'Artagnan, of the Three Musketeers' last lunch before he was killed in combat. André finally realized his boyhood ambition of owning it. He spent millions remodeling every square inch, creating a fantasy castle with gardens straight out of fairy tales, glittering chandeliers, and priceless artwork. It resembled something from a movie, but André was experiencing it on a daily basis. Despite his affluence, André continued to move quickly. He continued to grow his performance business, going on constant tours from America and Europe to Australia and Japan. His audience grew, his tours expanded, and his wealth increased annually. He was now a superstar rather than merely a musician, a worldwide sensation whose brand developed into an unstoppable source of income. One unexpected habit, baking, persisted despite all the flash and glamour. André did something unexpected during the 2020 shutdown, when concerts were postponed and millions of dollars in ticket sales vanished in an instant. He began making cakes and giving them to his neighbors. It was just plain human kindness, no glitz or extravagance. A modest reminder that a guy who still valued community and little pleasures lived behind the vast enterprise. André's fortune, however, was not all that simple. André's constant performance was essential to his enterprise, and all almost fell apart again in 2010 when he became ill with a bad ear infection. Given how hectic his schedule was, doctors were surprised he hadn't become ill sooner. His family became aware of the brittleness of this riches for the first time. Their entire project hinged on André's well-being. A single sickness or postponed trip may lose them millions of dollars right away. Despite the tremendous strain, André bounced back and continued to go forward, wanting to keep the music and the money coming in, but the tension increased. Fans witnessed a happy André performing with ease, but behind the scenes, the family was dealing with the risks no one knew about while running a tens of millions of dollar company. Every spectacular event was a risk, involving millions of dollars in promotion, musicians, venues, and set designs. Everything might be at risk from any failure. Dot was developed by André. Then another secret was revealed. Music was not the only source of André's wealth. He had been quietly accumulating a sizable real estate holding, spending millions on upscale homes around Europe. Although his Maastricht castle was well known to fans, few were aware of the size of his real estate holdings. That the castle in Maastricht wasn't just any old house. It has a sobering past. Originally owned by Charles de Bot's Castelmour d'Artagnan, it was constructed in 1452. The actual source of inspiration for the Three Musketeers' renowned musketeer. However, this home wasn't very opulent when André first saw it. When he was 6 years old, he entered for the first time to take piano instruction. It wasn't love at first sight, I assure you. It was gloomy, crumbling, and a little unsettling. You wouldn't want to live your best life there for sure. After several decades, André's dominion was centered around that eerie old castle. He surrounded himself with the type of luxuries that most of us only see on Netflix, transforming his Maastricht castle from a dark ruin into an amazing estate. Reminiscent of a fairy tale. Consider his violin, a Stradivarius. This instrument wasn't your typical one. Antonio Stradivari created it in 1692, and André paid an incredible £7 million for it in 2018. Additionally, this was his third Stradivarius. One of Stradivari's earlier works, the first one he acquired, was from 1667, although it was difficult to play. Nevertheless, André recorded some of his best albums with it, turning its difficult sound into gold. Having several violins worth millions of dollars, André loved more than simply music. He was playing in a different league. Instruments were just one aspect of André's lavish lifestyle. He took charge of every aspect of his performances, even the attire of his orchestra. His female musicians wore those beautiful outfits. André created each one himself, with prices of almost £3,000 each. These costumes were no joke, and were inspired by historical characters such as the Empress Elizabeth of Austria. Every tour, double that by hundreds of artists. André's previous bankruptcy due to his stage designs begins to make sense. Yes, insolvency. Do you recall the crazy stage set he made for his 2008 Vienna concerts, with fountains, actual ice rinks, gilded carriages, and dancers in opulent ballrooms? It was an exact replica of Schönebrunn Palace. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? Epic, however, has a cost. Building it cost André an incredible £34 million. Instead, he constructed 3 distinct sets, and took them on tour all around the world, going through money at an incredible rate. It was ostentatious. Although it was great, it almost killed him. In the end, André and his bank manager sat together to talk about what they might do to pay off the massive debts. Nevertheless, he overcame that crisis and recovered even more resiliently. Was he at home, or was this person unstoppable? Everything appeared calm, cozy, and even regular, as normal as life could possibly be within a medieval castle. Marc and Pierre are André's two kids from his marriage to Marjorie, which began in 1975. On the castle walls, their family's pictures were displayed with pride, serving as a reminder of the easier times when André was first starting out. However, his family now played important parts in his empire. Marjorie penned the performance scripts, adding lyrics to the music that moved millions of people worldwide. Their younger son Pierre took the lead, assuming the role of André Rieu Productions' vice president. Family dinners may have appeared to be informal get-togethers, but they were actually board meetings, with business and family being discussed at every meal. However, behind all of this glitzy living and mouth-watering sweets, André's early years weren't very happy. It was difficult to grow up in a small, cramped Maastricht home with 5 siblings. Although he conducted an orchestra, his father didn't give him any love. Even harsher was his mother. André thought they were envious of his innate ability, since he was playing a violin flawlessly. After weeks of learning the instrument at the age of 5, through music, he managed to escape the difficult times, but the wounds persisted, driving him to want greater fame, recognition, and luxury. When André first began out, it was evident that he was driven to succeed. His initial group, consisting of just 12 musicians, performed at weddings and little eateries back in 1978. The finances were tight. They were hardly perceptible to audiences, who occasionally didn't even glance up from their supper. André considered giving up music entirely, even making a joke about starting a pizza place in its place. Picture André Rieu, violin in hand, serving pizza Paganini at the table. Fortunately for his millions of followers throughout the world, he continued to perform music. André reorganized his group in 1987, establishing the Johann Strauss Orchestra, which is today well known. He looked up to Johann Strauss, the original waltz king, who demonstrated that artists could be successful business people. Strauss was conducting 5 orchestras at the same time. André was content with one enormous orchestra, which is currently the world's largest privately owned orchestra. They performed all over the world, from sold-out venues in America and Asia to crowded stadiums in Europe. In 1995, André's success suddenly took off during a memorable soccer match. André shrewdly purchased a minute of live TV coverage during halftime to perform his music as Ajax was playing Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. Shortly before halftime, Ajax scored. The time was ideal. André's live TV performance of Shostakovich's Waltz in 2 drew millions of viewers. He sold more than 200,000 CDs the following week, transforming him from a local musician to a worldwide celebrity in an instant. His entire life altered with a single well-timed soccer goal. Success led to even greater aspirations. Millions of dollars were spent by André to create the most magnificent performances conceivable: expensive ball dresses, balloon drops, and fake snow. Each performance was an extravagant festivity. In order to maintain authenticity, he notoriously insisted on pouring real champagne during concerts, despite the fact that he didn't drink it himself. The show was adored by the audience. Critics' eyebrows went up. André, though, was unconcerned. He desired sincerity. He did not want to take quick routes or deceive. André maintained relatability, in spite of all this affluence. He read crime books to learn Spanish during lockdown, collected comic book memorabilia, and still held onto a basic toy truck from his early years. This was no mere toy vehicle. It brought back memories of the good old days when he and his brother Robert would construct automobiles out of old wheels and scrap wood. André, however, wasn't only a wealthy collector from the past. He was focused intently on the future. André had even larger aspirations for his orchestra, which was now officially the largest private orchestra on the planet, with 60 players and a horde of support personnel. Being the biggest classical superstar in the world and selling 40 million CDs didn't satisfy him. He aspired to accomplish something that had never been accomplished by a musician. André's dream was to perform live on the moon. Yes, you heard correctly. The moon. André was not kidding. He even had a serious conversation about constructing a hotel on the moon with entrepreneur Richard Branson. Renowned for his ambitious schemes, Branson pledged to see it through to completion. André, too, he had every intention of performing the first-ever space performance with his enormous Johann Strauss orchestra, complete with instruments. Before you realized that this was the man who helped classical music surpass Beyoncé and Metallica in sales, it seemed insane. André Rieu was the one who could pull off a moon concert. However, how did André even get to this point of extreme desire and success? André constructed his orchestra all by himself. In contrast to the majority of classical orchestras that depend on wealthy sponsors or schools, he had little more than a crazy dream and a few musicians that believed in him back in the late 1980s. André took big chances right away. Without any sponsors or government assistance, he reinvested all of his earnings from album sales and ticket sales in the orchestra. Without including the cost of traveling, he now has to pay at least $1 million a month to manage this enormous enterprise. This implied that every album had to reach the top of the charts, and every concert had to sell out. If not, everything would fall apart in an instant. André employed over 110 people on a permanent basis, including cooks, lighting technicians, musicians, and another 100 independent contractors who managed marketing, travel, and logistics across the globe. It was more than simply a company. He traversed the world with this family, which was his second family, assembling and dismantling massive stage setups in stadiums ranging from Sydney to Mexico City. 9 massive trucks full of lights, costumes, instruments, props, and equipment were needed for each city. His team put in endless hours, frequently starting from scratch to erect the stage at 7 a.m. and dismantling it as soon as the 3-hour concert ended at midnight. Although it was hard, disciplined labor behind the scenes, every performance seemed magical to the audience. Rock star antics were not permitted on André's tight ship. Don't worry about crazy gatherings. André himself napped before every show to stay energized, and his staff went with their own cooks to eat nutritious meals. He was aware that one poor performance and one sleepless night might cost him millions of dollars and ruin his image. André insisted on having a celebration with his band following each performance. Good wine and informal conversations, not extravagant champagne parties. For André, this was more than simply business. It was his passion in life. This unwavering work ethic paid him handsomely. Despite the advent of digital music and streaming, André's record sales remained astounding. He had been collaborating with his label, Universal Music, for more than 20 years, and the collaboration yielded incredible outcomes. Over the course of 2 decades, André sold over 40 million records worldwide, numbers often reserved for pop singers rather than violinists. Millions of DVDs were purchased annually by André's followers in spite of forecasts that they were obsolete, particularly those captured at his renowned summer performances in Maastricht. André's conviction that his audience always wanted something tangible they could touch in their hands was validated when he meticulously edited and videotaped these performances every year. André was more than simply an excellent musician. Being a skilled entertainer, he knew precisely what his followers want. Like his well-known movie themes collection, which featured huge successes like My Heart Will Go On, he frequently made them eat albums. André acknowledged that he rarely wrote original music, preferring to rework well-known pieces and add his own unique touch. This recipe was always successful. His business grew as each album became a big seller, guaranteeing that all of the musicians and crew received their monthly salaries on schedule. However, it was difficult to sustain success at this size, felt tremendous pressure all the time to continue selling records and packing seats. Every choice he took was fraught with danger, since he had no sponsors or benefactors. Even in the event of a worldwide epidemic, he could not afford to slow down. André kept his spirits up and stayed in touch by baking cakes for his friends and neighborhood after the performances ceased. He planned even more ambitious undertakings during the downtime, such as his lavish film screening in 2025 to commemorate his 75th birthday. The event, titled The Dream Continues, included previously unheard-of performances from André's international tours that were shown in theaters all around the world. His amazing journey from a little child dreaming in Maastricht to a world-renowned figure who is loved by millions was celebrated in style. André never concealed the factors that contributed to his extraordinary success: perseverance, self-control, and taking chances that no one else was willing to take. André was exposed to music he had never heard before thanks to his Jewish father-in-law Edgar Koopman's collection of 300 vinyl recordings. His technique was influenced by these recordings, which allowed millions of people who never thought they would enjoy classical music to enjoy his performances. At André's concerts, songs like the Jewish klezmer song Hava Nagila became huge successes. On YouTube alone, his rendition of this classic received over 14 million views. André performed all around, including Israel, where he was given standing ovations for his renditions of well-known regional tunes like Jerusalem of Gold. André never lost sight of his roots in spite of all of this success. He threw a lavish boat party with his full orchestra on board to honor his 75th birthday, sailing through his birthplace of Maastricht. Through movie screenings, fans from all around the world participated in. After seeing legendary performances from decades of André's enduring performances, André accomplished something that no one could have predicted. His family was both proud and anxious about his enormous private orchestra, international renown, and enormous riches.